So my question is, Village OS sort of binds all the technology together and makes it sort of like in a nice package for everyone to use. But since you talk about 3D printing, prefab homes, so all the and you also talk about a housing crisis currently with more than 1 billion homes that are needed to sustain a living. So all the technology and the Village OS itself makes like eco-villages or REGEN eco-villages very, very expensive. However, you say that these kind of communities, these eco-villages will render, using your quote here, no longer housing no longer as a privilege but as a right. So can you explain how region village is something sounding very high tech and very expensive? How does that solve the problem for housing for people with low income in different countries?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm inspired in many ways by at Stanford by what's called the D School, the design school, and they have as part of the D School this group called Design for Extreme Affordability, where they are given a task. They're given some expensive thing in the world that is quite urgent and necessary, and their task is to break it down to its most critical human need of what this thing is supposed to actually do for humans, for people or planet, and then come up with a solution that is fractional to the cost of the let's say the full-blown version of that. No, it's doing same or similar things. So I'm inspired by that. Okay, so and also by Elon Musk. I'm a total fanboy of this idea of you start with the Roadster, you go to the Model S, you've got the Y, the Model 3, the all the different kind of interpretations where eventually you could see this coming down in cost to sort of the Tata version. You know what I mean? Like this,
Yeah.
very inexpensive electric vehicle. And so our goal with REGEN Villages is very much to be a global South oriented expression of these modern eco-village interpretations, where, especially with 3D extrusion of earthen building materials, especially like hempcrete and bamboo-crete and other kinds of earthen building materials can be extruded through these systems, and within a matter of a few weeks, you can literally print a 300-400 home neighborhood, and that's based on preliminarily doing the regenerative permaculture infrastructure, so that when the monsoon does come, the land that has been denuded for so many eons, all of a sudden comes back to life. And we've seen this time and time again around the planet, that it doesn't actually take long at all to be restorative in your practices. Okay, so it's actually pretty low tech, as a matter of fact. And so what we can do is we can take what we're doing in Norway and Netherlands and UK, US, Canada, etc., and we can start to really apply this model, the Village OS, to design for extreme affordability. So then you have, the regenerative systems that are in symbiosis with the built environment, and most importantly, that these communities have what they need to get by and survive and thrive. And then, as what's beautiful about these designs, by the way, is that as time goes by, they get better. It's like fine wine. They improve, they blossom, they fruit. When they blossom and fruit and you have food forests, what happens is you get these wildlife corridors. You get these transiting birds and animals who bring heirloom and pioneer growth. So in other words, things that weren't planted there came from the scat of another animal, and that's nature. And all of a sudden that starts to take root and grow and be indigenous to this area. And it's life affirming. Hey, you walk out and every day you just see your community is just getting kind of bushier and more blossomy and more fruity and delicious and just bursting with flavors, right? And that makes people feel safe and healthy. And at the same time, when you feel safe and healthy because you're surrounded by abundant surplus, it triggers generosity. It triggers compassion and altruism and all these things, which then release dopamine, oxytocin, and all of these lovely chemicals in our brains that just make us want to do better and do more of these kinds of things for people and planet. So in any case, that's our driving goal is to bring this to the global South in a way that governments, especially around the world, understand that this is actually a very small investment to make in these kinds of new build communities, because in the long run, they reduce burdens on government. They reduce burdens on the draw to these people going to the cities. They reduce the burdens on healthcare systems. They broker peaceful, happy places. These are all what we call these long-term positive externalities